What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical. I mean, it's 5:30 on the dot on the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. So, of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, Chief Justice Will. Our first show this year, coming too late, if I must say. Our first show, you've done plenty of baseball, obviously, but the two of us, this is the first time we're having a conversation on baseball. And this is no nonsense. I'm told producer Devin has warned us, no nonsense allowed, because it's a 15 gamer. We got to stay on the rail, on the tracks. What's up, Will? How are things in your world?
I'm good, man. Definitely ready to get rolling with some MLB. I think it's going to be a fun one. I know I'm talking perhaps a little bit melancholy currently, but trust me, the excitement will come. It is coming. Speaking of which, in terms of an introduction, you guys are going to get a very interesting show tonight if you show up at 7:45. Dino and the Wilster here will be on Cardstock Afterlock. Acronym stands for Castle. So we typically say, welcome to the castle, and that's Cardstock Afterlock. Dean knows why I'm giving this out. Show up at 7:45, going to be talking Top Shot. Is Top Shot dead? We will discuss this in detail.
I'm curious too. I don't know the answer. I'm just hosting the show. I ask questions. You're going to be on there, and Tambo as well.
No, Tambo will not be on there. That's why I clarify. It will be me and you, Dean, only. So Dean will be a contributor and a host today. It's going to be fascinating. Going to be fantastic. That's about as many shenanigans as I'm going to get into because I know you guys want us to talk about every team and every pitcher. I kid.
So scratch Tambo. That means my usage is going to go up. So you got to play me? I wasn't expecting this to say many words. I was just going to throw out some questions.
We're getting you at $3,500 tonight, Dean. The min price on FanDuel. Well, that's in basketball terms. But anyway.
You're going to be like Westbrook or Harden tonight. I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep throwing some questions your way. And I'm curious to talk about some top shots. But yeah, it's DFS MLB we're talking about right now. I do want to mention Ross weather report around this time is kind of sort of when he would drop the update. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye on it. Producer Devin's going to keep an eye on it as well. I went ahead and dropped the link in chat. I believe this is from earlier today. So, and of course, weather changes. Obviously, the closer you get to the games, the more precise the forecast will be. Of course, if you guys are premium members, you get Ross' most up-to-date update on Crunch Time. Crunch Time takes you directly up the lock tonight. Derek Carty also on that show, STL Cards on that show, and we're off to tell you what's going on weather-wise. But I assume, best case scenario, we're going to talk about these games as if they're all going to go. Who knows? We shall see. Stay tuned. Looks like Boston is probably the diciest, at least as of this morning. Weather is lurking there in Detroit, in Cincinnati, to a lesser degree for the White Sox, lesser degree for St. Louis. But, what else are we going to do? We're going to talk about it as if it's going to go, right?
I think that's the case. And if it doesn't go, well, hey, hopefully we'll have the news in time and we can make some adjustments. But I'm definitely anticipating it's going to go. That's the approach I'm taking.
Yeah. And if Rob tells us otherwise, or if the games just go ahead and get canceled, we'll adjust accordingly. Do you want to say hello to chat? What's up, chat? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, ask some questions regarding the slate, just general strategy questions. We're happy to answer those as well. Producer Devin is compiling those, and it's a 15 gamer. There's 30 teams. Everybody's in play tonight. Everybody's playing baseball. We're not going to talk about everybody. We're going to do our best to talk, stay focused and talk about the stuff that quote unquote matters, the pitchers that matter. If some fringe dude hits a couple homers, so be it. We're probably not going to mention them. We'll see how that goes down. But if there's somebody you're thinking about rostering, why aren't they talking about so-and-so? Or elaborate on that. Feel free to ask. Devin's going to join the show last 15 minutes and knock out all the stuff we haven't talked about or expand on the stuff that we did talk about. Overarching as far as like how you're attacking this slate, it's a 15 gamer. And my perspective is I don't love anything. There's stuff I like. There's nothing I love. Nothing I love. Double barrel on DK, I think you can make work pretty easily with Glasnow and Bieber. Neither one are in like a perfect matchup, but both matchups are fine. And if DK is going to keep keeping these prices this way, and FanDuel as well, it's not hard to make lineups I like with Glasnow, with Bieber. Before we break down the pitchers, I'm sure we'll start there, obviously. Your general thoughts as far as the slate, because, again, there's some good stuff, but nothing great. That's my perspective.
Not so fast, as they would say on College Football Live on Saturday mornings. If you're into that sort of thing, I think there are plenty of spots to attack, Dean. We don't have our good friend SBK popping in, so the floor is all ours. I'm not sure if you want to hop around or not, but for me, man, and this is just something I've done in baseball for a pretty good while now. I just always attack bad pitchers, right? It may not be anything elaborate. It might not be Matt Harvey day, but guess what? It's John Lester day. John Lester's pitching on this slate, and he's pretty bad these days. Overall, I mean, everybody's going to have a game where they don't get lit up. The best pitcher in the league is going to give up 5 runs one of these days, right? The best pitcher in the league, it's going to happen. They will get close. 4, 5, it happens, right? The worst pitcher in the league is going to give up 0 runs. And Wade Miley isn't the worst pitcher in the league, but I'm pretty sure he's had about as close to a no-hitter. I mean, all these guys, a fair amount of guys have had no-hitters that probably had no business having no-hitters, so that's just the dynamics of baseball. But I think if you stay the course, always attack the bad pitcher when they're on the slate. Sometimes they're going to end up on a 15-game slate, and if they were on a 5-game slate, all the bats would be 30, 40% on. On a 15-game slate, you're not going to see anything near that. So that's kind of, that's the way I want to approach this. Full disclosure, the San Francisco Giants are absolutely my favorite stack. If you want to get there, I know we might be hopping ahead of the game. We probably want to give that out last. That's the spot I'm starting in, or I've started in on pretty much any lineup that I've built. I've absolutely started with the San Francisco Giants, and I will build around them. Clearly, this is baseball, so you won't get any lock buttons from me ever. In baseball, I will not be handing out lock buttons. But if you're asking me a stack, oh yes, well, I'm talking about bats. But pitchers, I will take a stand. But in terms of bats, if you're asking me right now, where I'm going to stake my flag, it's absolutely San Francisco. They've kind of been a favorite team of mine this year, almost all year. And on a 15-game slate, I'm getting them in a really good spot. Not the highest team total, right? So that's going to keep some ownership down. In Texas, they're facing Jordan Lyles. I'm not afraid of Jordan Lyles. And on FanDuel, I mean, I've got the highest ownership is Brandon Belt at 6%. Everybody else is under that. And it should be. It's a 15-game slate. I'm not oblivious to that. But, this is what happens on these big slates. You get guys in what I consider to be really good spots at very little ownership because teams have to get overlooked organically.
Yeah, San Francisco, I don't look at the standings very often, but I think they're the best team in baseball according to record, which is just wild. Would not have guessed that. Baseball is goofy, baseball is weird. It's a long season. Who knows if that holds up? They're also without Longoria, one of their better hitters. He's going to be out for like a month or so. And I don't know how to stack San Fran. Like Dickerson, even when he homers, they take him out when lefties come in. Texas, I believe, has 4 lefties in their bullpen. I was checking that out because Dickerson's 2.2K batting second. And he might only get 3 at-bats, which is super frustrating. But he just homers in the first inning or the third inning, and it doesn't matter because everything else is, icing on the cake. The other part of the bad pitchers, and you're right, there are bad pitchers in the slate. We're going to talk to pitchers in a second, but just to kind of pile on your point, Carlos Martinez, one of the guys I want to pick on. He got absolutely shellacked. We knew the regression monster was coming for him, but that was the Dodgers. Today, it's Cleveland. And Cleveland, it's like, I want to take advantage of Martinez. How do I do that? Well, Cleveland's terrible. But Jose Ramirez, obviously, Hernandez is fine. Rosario's been bad this year, but in theory, he's a really good play against Seymour. But I don't know what to do with that matchup. Leicester as well. Like, I want to pick on Leicester, but Tampa Bay, another team that's always flipping guys in, flipping guys out when a righty comes in. And I mean, Arozarena, I think, is an awesome play. Also, the ballpark stinks too. It's just kind of worth noting. But then, that's they play their home games. And Senzatella, one of the worst pitchers, but it's in one of the worst hitting environments. And the Marlins on a 15-game slate, I like Chisholm, I like Aguilar, Dickerson, super cheap, but it's hard to feel great about it. So it's a lot of the worst pitchers are in the there's not great matchups. Oh, and the Mets, in a nice ballpark, jumped in the American League, locked in for 9, facing Zimmerman, but it's the Mets, and you know what happens if you trust the Mets, but they're also kind of sort of somewhat popping for me.
Well,
Go ahead.
Here's the deal. Pete Alonso's back in the lineup.
Sure.
So he's batting cleanup. We've got our good friend of Rotogrinders that everybody mentions, James McCann. he's in the 3-hole, right? Francisco Lindor, Jesus, has to come around and start hitting the ball at some point.
He's coming alive.
But you know what I mean? I'm saying compared to earlier this season, that's what I mean. We've got our professional stolen baseman, Jonathan VR at the top. Got some Kevin Pillar, who's going to have a little bit of pop in Baltimore. He's played in this park 1,000 times between Boston and Toronto. Yeah. I'm almost positive he sends one out of the park today.
Whoa.
Almost positive, right? And so, you start building this team, and guess what? If you want the guy that I feel like is most likely to hit a home run from this team, is probably Billy McKinney, at least according to Plate IQ. You guys should use Plate IQ. It's a beautiful tool, and it'll have you played 8 hitters, 9 hitters, 6 hitters, 7 hitters, just because of the matchup. And so when I look at this matchup, when I call out Mr. McKinney here, clearly, in terms of straight up numbers, it looks terrible. It looks terrible. I understand this, but in terms of this pitch profile here, I mean, the guys on this particular fastball, he'll see it about 45% of the time on average if we're matching the Plate IQ. And you look at Billy McKinney. I mean, he's got 273 ISO, 60% hard hit rate, and 346 average distance. He's a guy, lefty. He's not going to feel good. But I think if you're stacking this team, he may very well get a hold of one. And, so those are the things I like to look at when I'm building teams. And so he's the guy that kind of stood out. I know it's lefty, doesn't feel sexy, but I do like it. And speaking of that's the reason why I like the Mets. I mean, they got a pretty good matchup here with Mr. Zimmerman. And I think it kind of goes back to what I've been talking about. The Mets have been bad overall in terms of scoring runs. But guess what? You have to take them in the chances where the opportunity is there. Today, they have the opportunity to score 10 runs. And if you hop off the Mets, what are you going to do? You're going to kick yourself. You're going to say, God, I've rostered these cheap Mets all year. And the one time I don't roster them, they score 15 runs. That's what you're going to say. And that's why you have to stay the course and don't let all the results, kind of take you astray.
Do want to say it depends where you're shopping. FanDuel, the prices are really appealing for the Mets. DK, not so much. VR is 5.3. Lindor is fine at like 4.6. McCann at 5.1. Alonso 5.8, which I think is the most expensive first baseman. Pilar is like 2.2 on FanDuel, but 4.4 on DK. So, they're going to be popular on FanDuel and much less popular on DK. But let's put the sticks conversation on layaway, and let's talk about the arms. Arms more predictive than bats. Yeah, it's 1 and 1A at the top. I think it's pretty clear. Glasnow and Bieber. Do you have a lean amongst those two?
Probably leaning Bieber today. I think that's where I'm going to lean. I do understand that Glasnow has the pitcher's park on his side, but Bieber's in St. Louis, and it's not that hot in St. Louis. Like if the weather was a little bit warmer, maybe I would have leaned Glasnow, but when I'm looking at the weather right now, looks like it's about 76 degrees, wind blowing across the field. I'm not really too afraid of that. It is 85% humidity, at least according to our little weather track on Rotogrinders, which that might scare me a little bit. But overall, I think Bieber is really in play. He's going to face a lot of righties. Like, he'll face Edmund, who's a switch hitter, Carlson, who's a switch hitter, and a little bit of Matt Carpenter. And I mean, man, I'm just not afraid of Matt Carpenter anymore. So Bieber ranks out as my number one. And ironically, I think another guy that's in the mix, it's not going to feel sexy because of the team he's facing and some of the name value. But I actually think Carlos Rodon's a real good play today. I think he's fantastic, but he's not going to get, I don't think, nearly the ownership because of the matchup against Toronto. But he's a guy that I actually really like for tournaments. If you look at him this season, 37.2% K rate, 3.26 XFIP. Those are numbers I can get behind. They're really not far behind any of them. And in fact, that's still ahead of Walker Buehler. So Rodon is a guy.
It's number one
I
this
like
season.
today.
Rodon this year, like you said, he's the top K guy. You know, absolutely just this season, 54 innings, 37% K rate. Glasnow and Bieber are basically the same. They're both at 35.6% exactly. Glasnow 8.4% as far as walks, Bieber 8.8% as far as walks, and Rodon his walks are in check at 6% as well too. It's just that matchup against Toronto, and both sides of that game, like Ray on the other side, like two reclamation projects that have been great this year. Like, but you know, we know the White Sox pummel lefties, and that Toronto lineup is scary, and that feels like one of those games where that's the scariest game to have like no sides on, because it feels like, you know, it could be an all or nothing. It could be a really good pitching game, really good hitting game. It feels like the hardest one to predict, and I don't really have a stand on it. And right now I'm currently hoping for like a 4 or 5 game, and it's relatively quiet and nobody really homers twice. And I don't know what to do with it, but I'm sure you have the ownership stuff pulled up in front of you, and I'd imagine that it's going to be on Glasnow and Bieber, and Rodon's going to be ignored, and maybe people will step down to Pablo Lopez. You know, they gave him a day off yesterday. For all I know, that's all it is. They just give him an extra day, and now he's home versus the Rockies out instead of pitching at Fenway, and he's back in the National League. He's distinctly better at home. He's not going to throw more than like 90-ish or so pitches, and that's the tricky part there, because Glasnow can throw 100. Bieber has thrown 100 every single start, at least his last 10. I think 100 or 101, and he's in the NL. He gets to pick on a pitcher, which is good times as well. But that Rockies lineup is dreadful. We know they're without Story. Big City, Matt Adams. Talk about like not being afraid of like lefty power guys back in the day, the old Cardinals. That was his nick. I don't know if he's.
I know. I know.
He's more spelt though. I don't know if he's Big City anymore. He's, at least last we saw him, he lost some weight. I haven't seen him. He hasn't played much baseball.
He's more like suburb city. He's not Big City anymore. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So I think Lopez is real, and also there's a meaningful difference as far as the asking price. You can get yourself an extra batter too with Lopez, and like I feel like that quality starts on layaway. He's probably not going to go beyond 6, but that Colorado lineup, we know how terrible they are on the road. Lopez distinctly better at home, and just it feels really, really safe for what it's worth. That's what you're looking for. Do you have a take as far as Lopez? I'm not sure how much I need that money is kind of my thought process, but I think he's really good today.
Yeah. I do think Lopez is in play at 87. I do have a guy though that I think could be really good tonight, and it's a little bit of, it's kind of a combination of price relative to skill, relative to the weather, relative to the ballpark. And I know, so just follow me here. I actually think Chris Bassett is a really good play at 8,800 relative to the matchup, relative to the ballpark, relative to the weather. About 60 degrees out there today. It's going to be pretty cool out there in Oakland. Oakland isn't the best ballpark to hit in anyway. And Chris Bassett's been pretty good this year. I do think if I had to side between Bassett and Pablo, I do think I'd side with Bassett today. But that's just me. You know, that's just kind of all the factors coming together for me. I think they're about the same, you know, relative to this slate.
I'm pulling up Weather Edge trying to see if anything kind of sort of pops. Ross Tool here, 8.9% a boost as far as homers there in Oakland. Now it's going to be cool at 58 degrees with the wind is blowing out, but my understanding is that ballpark doesn't really care so much for winds, just the way it's built. You know, it's an old school stadium, it's a football stadium, just kind of the way the walls are and stuff behind home plate. I don't think wind matters a ton there in Oakland. And the matchup, obviously, they're against Arizona. They're grabbing a DH, but whoever that DH happens to be is not going to be particularly good. I guess Vargas might be their DH. Not really sure. It's kind of looks like the extra stick they added. Otherwise, it's pretty thin as far as pitchers. Like the Ray Rodon matchup, it can go any way possible. And Alex Wood, if you just forgive his last start, you know, lefties against Texas is absolutely a thing. And
like
the roof is the roof is open there, which that's a lean towards your Giants sticks. You know, obviously the Texas side is not very good. Not imposing at all. By the way, for Bieber, nice little bump is that Yadi Molina is still not in the lineup. They have the backup catcher, which I think is a nice little, if you're looking for a tiebreaker against Glasnow. And on a DK, my main lineup almost definitely is going to have them both, because it's not hard to have them both. And I just trust the arms more than I trust the bats, and that's the way it is. FanDuel, they're both around 11K or so as well. Other pitchers that are of note on this slate, Boyd, if that weather is good, and DK is like an SB2 if you want to open stuff up, but I don't know how necessary that is again. Walker Buehler against Pittsburgh. His Pittsburgh lineup is better than we've seen. Colin Moran is back, Polanco's back, Cabrian Hayes is back. So it's the better Pittsburgh lineup, but it's still not very good, obviously. Otherwise, I don't have much else as far. I mean, Aaron Nola against the Braves. I know the Braves, it's not their top lineup, but the front half is pretty imposing, and Nola just hasn't been spectacular, and the ballpark's not great either. I just don't think Nola's going to be the top pitcher today, or I don't think he breaks the slate. I think one of the other guys are going to, at least one of the other guys, and I don't think I need him. He's not in my pool as of right now. What say you?
Yeah, I'm not playing any Aaron Nola. I don't think it's necessary, right? So yeah, I'm with you 100%. I do think the price on FanDuel is like really good today, but I still don't think we have to do that. I think there are other guys I would prefer. I mean, you guys know I'm much more of a FanDuel player than a DK player. That's pretty much all sports. So on FanDuel, I've been able to get the stud pitchers with ease. So it hasn't really been a big deal because the offenses I like are fairly cheap, for the most part. So, I haven't had a problem getting Bieber, haven't had a problem getting Glasnow, haven't had a problem getting Carlos Rodon. If I needed to spin down, like I told you, I do like Chris Bassett. Alex Wood is 8,700. I'd probably play him over Robbie Ray today. So, there's a lot of guys. Sonny Gray is 8K if you want to kind of experiment. Like if you really needed to load up on some bats. But I don't think you have to do that on FanDuel at all today. So, that's kind of where I am there. FanDuel is pretty much Bieber, Glasnow, Rodon.
Yeah, you mentioned the Hound, Bassett, and like it's weird seeing his price. He used to be a guy we would pick on, at least I would try to pick on, and he's improved himself. He's turned himself into a pretty decent pitcher. Did you happen to catch like his press conference over there, like a post game interview there? He just showed a lot of passion and just like he's an easy guy to root for. It was pretty cool to see him talking about how like he was like breaking down, almost crying after like he get like a complete game or something like that. It was just a pretty cool little shot there. Arizona, again, they grabbed the DHs. They're still not very good. It's not a very patient team either. I'm pulling up the plate IQ as well. They are pretty contact heavy, and not that Bassett's this great strikeout pitcher either. So the combination of the two, he can go 7 or 8 innings if things are going pretty smooth, if he's efficient, but he's probably not going to strike out more than 6 or 7, 26.5% of the season. But, he should be fine. Like quality start feels like it's on layaway for him.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I like it. Like I said, I mean, I think much more appealing on DK than FanDuel for me with Bassett. Like, I don't need him on FanDuel, but on DK, he may in fact come in handy, especially with the build that I have going right now.
Do you have a thought? Is it worth even getting into as far as the Stickum and the MLB allegedly breaking down on the use of a combination of rosin and sunscreen and the spin rates and I mean I feel like this is like the two that people are going to be really microscoping is Garrett Cole and Bauer. Like and just sort of see how that goes down for them and might be meaningful differences for them. But and everybody uses the gunk to some degree. At least, well, DeGrom allegedly doesn't. Like his catcher came out and says he doesn't do it. And DeGrom is just naturally incredible. A bunch of dudes like Taijuan Walker, I think, came out and vouched for him like on Twitter. It was an interesting thread. But
the question is, did Taijuan Walker vouch for himself?
No.
See, these are the antics you have to look for. Yeah, Jacob DeGrom absolutely doesn't use resin. I can vouch for it.
Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Taijuan?
No follow-up questions. No follow-up questions. But the other part of it is like some of the batters like it because like it gives them grip and they're not going to get knocked in the head. And we saw if you watched Bauer last start where I think his spin rate was down. I haven't dug into him yet because he hasn't started another game yet. That'll happen soon enough. But like he almost hit Acuna, I think at least once, possibly twice. And there's a threat of a suspension like for 10 games. They'll lose some money as well too. And I think MLB wants to like make an example out of somebody. I would imagine. Otherwise, it's just going to keep the veil of the threat out there and never catch anybody. I don't know. I'm just kind of, and I don't know how to apply it to tonight. I don't know who's most likely to be throwing or using gunk or just risking it and saying, yeah, go ahead and kick me out of this game. Try me right now, because some of them do it right out in the open. Like it's pretty clear. That's seen out of Major League, like the Vaseline ball or whatever. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe if you have a thought on that, by all means, feel free. or just summarize the pitchers? We'll talk about some sticks.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, man, I think I will say this on DraftKings. I do feel like the build is going to be geared more towards spend up and then maybe go like mid tier. And in fact, I mean, you could probably just play Carlos Rodon on DK and get one of these other guys like a Lopez, like a Valdez, Sonny Gray, Alex Wood at 8K, I think is great. Something like that. Me personally, like I said, Chris Bassett is my favorite kind of mid-range spend on DK, and then up top it's Bieber. But Rodon at 9,700, I think if you need to fit in an extra bat, like if you need a couple $100, I feel very confident in Carlos today. Very confident. I mean, he's been fantastic.
How do you feel about Ray, out of curiosity?
I don't want to play Robbie Ray today, and he's been good too, don't get me wrong. But I think he's the most unsafe out of this top tier group. Like, if I had to choose between Bieber, Glasnow, Buehler, Rodon, I take all of those guys over Robbie Ray. In fact, today I would take, and I know I keep mentioning Chris Bassett, but I take Chris Bassett over Robbie Ray today for the savings. So that's I'd probably take Alex Wood today over Robbie Ray for the savings. But that's more matchup dependent, less about the skill level.
It's weird saying he's unsafe, but like we know his history and first impressions and all that. But at least 21 DK points in 7 of his last 8 games. But also, the White Sox pummel lefties, and it's a tricky one, man. I don't have a lot of confidence, but I feel the same way. I don't think he's safe either. But certainly he's interesting for upside. But you're not getting any discount. There's no matchup discount here. 9.5K. It's hard to click that button, man. But if you're playing tournaments, especially that are top heavy, I understand why you would play them. All right.
And Dean, let's do this. Can we go back and visit the Mets just momentarily? I feel like the Mets, in my opinion, they're kind of a pivotal team on this slate, right? Because you're going to have a camp that's like, hey, we're playing the Mets, and another camp like, I'm not playing the Mets. Let's just talk about it, because what I like to do is I just like to break down what we're seeing. So clearly we know that Mr. Zimmerman here, he's a lefty. And also this season, in terms of, and this is 174 plate appearances, it's really bad. It's really bad. Like, he's 364 WOBA, 223 ISO, 18% K rate, 34% ground ball rate, fly ball rate 30.9%, hard hit rate 45.7. Like, these are the numbers, right? So the Mets have a shot at doing something really beautiful on this slate. And then you go and look. His primary pitch is the fastball. And I know you're saying, well, everybody's primary pitch is the fastball. Not so fast. Sometimes it's the sinker. Sometimes it's the fastball cutter for a lot of the older pitchers that are trying to change their pitch mix to get more ground ball activity because they don't have the strikeouts anymore, a la Wade Miley. Like, right, he's gone to this cutter to help him improve. Another guy did that too that we used to pick on. God, if I can remember, he was at Kansas City. Past couple, I think a couple years ago, he was with Cincinnati. Really bad, dude. I just can't remember his name right now. At any rate, if you look at what the pitch he's sitting on the most, I talked about Kevin Pillar. It looks really good. He's got a 92.86% contact rate, 50% hard hit rate. The ISO is 0.083 though. The numbers will catch up, I think, in terms of that. James McCann. I almost said Brian McCann, but it's James, who's the righty. 267 ISO, 46% hard hit rate, 81% contact rate. Pete Alonso, 167 ISO, 71% hard hit rate, average hit distance of 374 feet. Like, these are the numbers I like to look at. And I'm not pushing for the Mets, right? I'm just saying, when you've got a team that's underpriced and fairly good weather, fairly good conditions, and then, they're pretty much going to see a hitter's umpire, and I think it's extreme hitters, if I'm not mistaken. All worlds kind of collide to say the Mets have an opportunity to be a really good team today, right? And it's the same thing for a few other teams, but I did want to kind of point that out because when you're going through plate IQ, I think that's the beauty of this thing, being able to break it down batter by batter by batter, and sometimes it can get you off of a guy that everyone's on, like a Francisco Lindor. And I'm not saying I won't play Francisco Lindor. I'm saying he would probably be one of the more popular ones because of the name value, when in fact, some of these other guys may have a better shot at scoring more fantasy points.
All right, pulling up the lineup HQ. Here's the extremes as far as the umpires. This is what we have. Zimmerman and Peterson have an extreme hitters umpire. The Marlins game, extreme hitters umpire for Lopez. Let's see, Smiley and Nola, extreme hitters umpire. Senzatella also, he's on the Marlins game, so extreme hitters umpire as well. One extreme pitchers umpire tonight is for Brubaker and Bueller. All the matchups are in with the exception of 2 for what it's worth. Roth just updated his weather. I went ahead and dropped that in the chat for y'all. You guys can read it at your own leisure. Again, Roth will be on crunch time, give the most up-to-date update as far as weather-wise. Let's see. Seattle, Detroit is yellow/yellow. I've never seen him do yellow. I don't know if that's a typo or not. Possible late start is kind of what he's saying there. Yellow-orange currently in Boston. So that looks like a slight upgrade to what it was earlier today. Orange-yellow, which is scarier, in Philadelphia. So slightly worse there in Philly for what it's worth. Again, go ahead and read that at your own leisure. Well, the next 10 minutes or so, maybe a little less, we're going to go around the horn, give our favorite plays. Obviously, you can only dig in so much. The chat's going to chime in and say, hey, what about this guy? What about that guy? How about this strategy? How about this stack? That's where the chat jumps in there. And Devin, our producer, is going to join the show the last 10 minutes or so. Let's go around the horn, knock out some catchers.
Is this DK FanDuel, or do we want to split it? Or just catches in general, not price dependent. Is that what we're doing?
However you want to work it, like FanDuel, obviously you don't have to play him, but I know you mentioned McCann. He's got a pretty good price over there too.
I play catches. Yeah, on FanDuel, I think James McCann, you definitely want to get in on some of that action. I don't hate a guy like Mr. Alfaro today going against Senzatella. Don't hate him from Miami, right? Don't hate if this game goes. I don't hate Plawecki today from Boston. I know he's facing Framber Valdez. Don't hate him. But those are kind of some of the guys I like at catcher. I mean, if you could spin all the way up, Buster Posey's my guy because clearly I'm stacking San Francisco. So, like, if I'm going all the way up on DK, I'm probably siding with Posey over McCann. And McCann is 5,100. But I don't really care as much about salary in baseball. I care about my lineup construction and what I'm looking to accomplish. So while he is 5,100, and that's really expensive, like I totally get it. They've also got some bats that aren't as expensive. Like I said, I'd be more than willing to leave Francisco Lindor out. I told you I like Billy McKinney, so I can make a Met stack, and it will look gross, but I will absolutely play it.
Yeah, I would throw Roberto and Sal Perez if you have the salary. Of course, a little tricky to get there in DK. And you mentioned caring about salary. That's one of the things that grinds my gears when people talk about like baseball players hitting value. It's like, what?
Dean, and look, I mean, let me tell you this. I've left seriously anywhere from 15 to 2,500 on the table playing baseball. And while that sounds crazy, I stack the 2 pitchers that I like the most, and they're 10 or 11K. And I have some cheap teams that I like, and voila, I mean, I end up with money on the table because, a couple times this year, Detroit, everybody was like 3,100, 3,200. You go to Baltimore from time to time, they're 2K, 21. And so it kind of works out. But that's all. It's got to be the right spot, though. Got to be the right spot.
First base, Pete Alonso, the polar bear. You got to like him. He's super expensive on DK 5.8.
Mike Zunino at catcher. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Mike Zunino is like on the list at 3,900. I meant to mention him.
Homer or nothing.
Yeah, I don't care. Let's get him in. All right, sorry, Dean. First base.
And Haas keeps homering too for Detroit. Not sure how fluky that is. He's got a pretty big strikeout rate, not walking so much, but good for him. And a fine matchup there against Marco Gonzalez. Belt is super cheap on FanDuel, 4K on DK. I think he's 2.5 on FanDuel. I like Matt Olson. They're going to do Plantier. Hoskins is a solid play. If you want to play against Robbie Ray, I'm okay with Abreu. And it's weird. Like, people love stacking Chicago against lefties, and I don't think that's going to happen today. Give me your favorite 1 or 2 first basemen today.
Yeah, number 1 for me is going to be Brandon Belt. No secret there. I love San Francisco. I really wish I knew what was going to happen with this game because I do like Yuli Gurriel today in this spot in Boston against Mr. Perez. So he's a guy that I like. I don't hate a guy like Mountcastle today from Baltimore. Like, I think he's okay.
He's been crushing.
Yeah, he's 3,600 like that. That's kind of my cheap play where it's like, hey, let's get in on this, right? If you want to go even a little bit cheaper, and this is kind of homer and a bust too, but Daniel Vogelbach, right? If you want to kind of see if we can send one out of the park, they're in Cincinnati, pretty good hitting conditions. I don't hate Suburban City. Matt Adams at 3K. You know, he's a guy that while he doesn't have this big average, he's kind of just started playing, you know, for the most part. So he's a guy that I like. And those are kind of the guys. I mean, you know, those are guys that I like.
All right, keystone position, second base. You got the diminutive Jose Altuve versus a lefty. We know his history as far as pummeling lefties. When the monster is out there lurking, he's normally picking on those Crawford boxes. Now he's got the monster to pick on the road. 5 ABs on layaway, assuming things go very well. Assuming this game actually plays as far as the weather. If you want somebody super cheap, do we have the Yankee lineup out? Is Odor in there? I assume he is. Yes, he is. He's 2.7 on DK. I like Merrifield. Like he's like Turner light. You know, I like players that lead off, that can homer, that can steal bases. I know that sounds crazy, but I like rostering those kind of dudes. Cesar Hernandez on FanDuel is 2.2, leading off against Carlos Martinez, who
fantastic price.
Yeah, I mean, he just absolutely got shellacked last time out. We were waiting for that to happen, and the Dodgers, I believe, absolutely mauled him. Muncy is back in the lineup, and not a great ballpark for power, but like, you know, when Muncy gets a hold of it, who cares there in Pittsburgh? And I believe it's actually better for lefty power than it is for righty power. Anything else of note? You can get Arroyo at 2K on DK.
Yeah, that's I think your cheap. That's your cheapie today, right? And you know Arroyo does this. Goes out and scores like 50 fantasy points without actually doing anything. And that's why I love this old article. I always mention it. Hitting is good too, by our good friend Dave Potts. She's as good. See, Arroyo didn't hit a home run. He just keeps getting on base and keeps getting driven in. And lo and behold, he scores big-time fantasy points. So he's a guy that I like. Albies, I think, for the price at 4,100 on DK. Like, you know, I think that's a good price batting in 3-hole. Gene Segura against Mr. Smiley. Guess what? He's also struggling against the right side of the plate this season. I'm not afraid of him at all. Wilmer Flores, 3,800. Surprise, surprise. San Francisco, another guy on the list. And
I'm told you can only play him against lefties. You're allowed. They'll let you play roster him against a righty.
DraftKings sure will. You hit that little green plus button, and they go right in your lineup. You don't even worry about it. And then Jose Peraza, I know he's at the bottom of the Mets lineup, but he's another guy that I think, in terms of our good friend Pepsi 7's got a little bit of pop, a little bit of jack. This is a jack in the bag candidate in the 9th spot. Shout out, salute to Pepsi 7. And those are going to be my guys. I'll cut it off there.
Humble brag. I was talking to Pepsi earlier today. We're discussing the slates. There you go. Yeah, he's doing
all
well.
Right.
Hey, Hot Corner, we got to pick up the pace. We're talking too much. The two of us. Too much usage here. We got to have Devin to join the show.
Good information. Sorry,
we are. We are. But we only have so many minutes to delegate. We got Devin compiling questions from chat. He'll be joining the show in the last 10 minutes or so. Third base, Hot Corner. I would just add like Jose Ramirez. Like Manny Machado is too cheap at 4.1K on DK. And he's facing one of the worst pitchers in the slate in Davies. Davies also is kind of a neutral to reverse splitsy. So, yeah, that price is really, really appealing as far as I can tell. Bregman, nice play on FanDuel, a little less so on DK, just because of salary cap reasons. Go ahead. What do you have for me as far as third base?
I'll just give out my one. My favorite is Yandy Diaz. Mr. Yandy.
Oh.
Going to be bringing us some candy.
Yeah, we got to pick on John Lester a little bit, sure. Knock out the shortstop position. I'll just kind of step aside for that one.
I mean, Brandon Crawford's my guy. And then, I mean, you can pretty much play any of these top guys. You know, I think you'll be fine. But Brandon Crawford, clearly my guy. Lindor is 4,600. So, you know, I like him. I do think Joey Wendell's okay, right? Because I don't expect Lester to be in the game terribly long. So, and he's a guy that I don't think is going to get pinch hit for. Don't mind, you know, Ahmed Rosario. Those would be the guys that I will stop with.
You occasionally break into song, and I thought for sure Joey Wendell would bring out a song, but maybe we just don't.
No, not today. Not today. Not today.
No Arrested Development. All right, let's knock out the Mr. Steal Your Girl, the flirter. Jesse Winker is having himself an incredible season. He's even has a good batting average in a year where nobody cares about batting average, right? Banging out a bunch of homers. He had 3 last time out. Still too cheap from my perspective at 4.6K on DK.
Mr. Steal Your Girl. There you go.
Giancarlo Stanton is 4K, and you know the power is legit, and I believe it's going to be hot in Minnesota today. Judge at 4.9's got a reasonable price. Pineda, the former Yankee, he throws a ton of strikes, does he not? Like, but that's the kind of guy I want Stanton facing. A guy that's just going to put the ball over the plate. 6.3% as far as walks this season. Overall, though, I don't love the outfield position. You'd think every outfielder, like every team is playing, there's got to be some spots that sort of pop. And I don't know. There's plays that are fine, but nothing spectacular. Maybe I'm just too picky today.
Yeah, this is a spot where I'm just I'm looking at plate IQ and I'm pulling in for my stack, right? So I like the San Francisco guys. I've been giving them out. It's my favorite stack of the day. So I will have some Wade Jr., some Dickerson, Randy Rosarina. I think is my absolute favorite spin up at 5,500. I do really like him. Another guy that I think is under the radar candidate, Dean, for 2 home runs. This is under the radar. Andrew McCutchen.
Ooh.
Under the radar today. For a double dong. So I do like him.
And he's buried in the lineup now. Like he was leading off earlier in the year.
Yes.
I have that mental like hiccup where I'm like, oh, I can't play him. He's batting 6th at home. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Another guy, if the game plays, Jordan Alvarez at 4,100. Lefty won't get much on. And look, it's 15 game slate, so ownership's out the window. But Jordan Alvarez, another guy that I really like today, alongside Kyle Tucker. You'll see a theme here with this lefty today. And then, like I talked about Mount Cal, so you can get him at first base, also in the outfield at 3,600. And then I am going to go ahead and be quiet now because we've talked too much, and we can get on to these questions.
No Minnesota lineup just yet. I'm just curious.
Manny Margot leading off 3,100. He may get pinch hit for.
Yeah, that's the annoying thing.
But I'm telling you, 3,100 Manny, that's a real good price for a guy that's got a little bit of pop. He can absolutely steal some bases. Absolutely. So I like Manny. Let's get crack-a-lack.
Alex Dickerson, you mentioned him. I'm just like, what do you do with that? Because there's 4 lefties in the bullpen. And he's like, oh, you don't know what's going to happen. But like, assuming this game plays out kind of sort of somewhat normal, almost definitely he gets the hook. I don't know. I have this mental hang up. And then the other day with Pinder, I'm like, well, they have no lefties in the bullpen. He's going to be coming out of the game. And he had a homer in like the first or second inning, and who cares? And I think he stuck around the entire game anyway. Sometimes I get caught overthinking. Am I overthinking Dickerson at so cheap on FanDuel?
Yes, just play him, Dean. Don't get out of your own way.
What happens when he gets pinch hit for with the bases loaded in the top of the 7th? I'm going to be so angry.
Yeah, but you'll have like 21 points already.
Give me some of your favorite stacks, and we'll dig into these questions from Devin.
Favorite stack: San Francisco, Tampa Bay. If the game plays, I do really like Houston. I really like Philly today. You'll see a theme here. I like the Marlins. Let's see. What's my last team here?
You said the Mets?
The Mets. Yes. Thank you. The Mets. Those are really my teams. Because everybody else is kind of in this weird weather. Like Oakland could score some runs, but they've got much cooler weather today. So I'm just kind of going to avoid them. So that's kind of where I'm at. Same thing for San Diego. Slightly cooler weather. Just kind of going to steer clear on a 15-game slate.
Yeah. Crunch Time does follow us. If you guys are premium members, if you're not a premium member, why not get yourself $10 off the first month, a la carte, just one sport, baseball, or all the sports with the exception of NASCAR. $10 off the first month. Link dropped in chat. And if you're going to ask questions to us, you can ask questions to Cardi, ask questions to Roth. You can ask questions to STL Cards. Some days it's Dave Potts, Jesus Good, 2-time millionaire winner. And honestly, the musings is the best thing you're going to read every single day, and it's worth the price of admission. Devin, we've hit the stall button long enough. My bad. I guess, are we in lightning round right away?
We're going to have to go straight into lightning round, Dean.
Oh,
no nonsense. Just absolutely nonsense. Zero nonsense.
Am I doing DK? Is Will doing FanDuel? Is that how we're doing this? How do you guys
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
That sounds good. And I love that I say no nonsense, and we're going to start with Eric's question. DK tournaments, why shouldn't I play a 5% Lester?
Oh, come on. Because it's not 2012.
Our buddy Eric in chat's trying to go for the contrarian stack and pitcher every day, so we'll get a few more of those.
Like 4 strikeouts, unless what are you doing? It's Lester is not struck out.
Dean, we got 6 more minutes, Dean.
Don't play Lester.
Stan wants to know DK tournaments Dodgers stack. Dean, you all right with them?
Yeah, and nobody's playing them, and Brubaker's like not a world beater, and you're locked in for 9 innings. Sure, I'm okay with it. Absolutely.
Get that first inning, 11 runs. Not too shabby way to start the slate. Will, CB wants to know top 4 favorite hitters. I think I can name off 3 with confidence.
Sure,
McCutchen, Belt, Crawford. And I can't. Yeah, I don't know what.
Randy
Rosarina. There it is. All right. Let's see. GR Sauce.
Randy and Yandy.
Randy and Yandy. Can't forget those.
coming
man,
to
that's
a
great.
Uh,
I need to televise
Fox
those games.
sitcom near you.
Commentate the games. My bad. Sorry.
That's
sorry,
all good. GR Sauce was wanting to know, since MLB's cracking down on pitchers, should we fade top arms and wait for the dust to settle?
I don't think so. Again, like
kind of
I
a
feel like some
big question for us.
I don't think so. And like some of these guys, and there's way no lightning round answer this, but it's probably like player by player, and it doesn't mean like if these guys need 100% to have like the combination of the rosin and the sunscreen. It's just for grip, it's for spin rate, and I'm kind of sort of in wait and see mode, but I am anticipating like really microscoping Cole and Bowers next starts and just kind of seeing how that goes down. But right now tonight, I'm not going to sit here and guess like who's most likely to not use rosin, who needs the rosin. I couldn't tell you.
All right, we got another strategy question, but we're going to try and knock out a couple of quick ones before we get to that. DK Tournaments Valdez for Eric. Are we playing him, Dean?
Valdez. Who's Valdez?
Houston.
Framber.
Oh, no.
8K.
No.
All right, Will Heaney for
Framber
tournament.
alert.
Framber.
What did you say? Go ahead.
Alan wants to know, are you playing Heaney at all in tournaments?
No.
All right. Thoughts on Pablo Lopez? I think, Will, you said you'd rather Bassett from that price range.
I would. I really would.
I rather Lopez. I think Lopez is going to go 6 strong and strike out 7 or 8, maybe give up like 1 run.
All right. Sauce was wanting to know, do you like the White Sox versus Ray in tournaments, Will?
No.
All right. Frederick wants to know, sticking with Will, are you running 150 lineups? If you're running 150 lineups on FanDuel, are you going 100% 4-4 stacks or some other combo? What's your general thoughts?
No, typically I don't go 100% 4-4. I actually prefer I will always go 4 on the teams that I like, so I'm always going to go 4 on a stack, and then after that I kind of mix and match all one-offs, 3-1, 2-2, like that. That's kind of how I like to do it.
All right, Dean, is the pairing for DK Rodon with Glasnow or Bieber?
I'm playing in my main lineup. Screw it. I'm just going to take the 2 top pitchers. I'm taking Glasnow. I'm taking Bieber. Rodon is the contrarian move, but I understand why you're doing it, and that's one way to be different.
I have Bieber and Bassett, by the way. You probably already knew this, but that is what I have on DK.
And then I'll step down to Lopez if I need to. Those are the 3 main pitchers I'm rostering, and that's probably super chalky, but I don't care. Bieber, Bueller also is on the fringe. He may get his way on the podium. We'll see.
B wants to know, Chief, are you not considering Alex Wood in the Bassett tier, maybe between Bassett, Wood, and Lopez, if you want to rank them?
No, I absolutely like it, but for me it would be Bassett, Wood, Lopez. But I absolutely like Wood for the price. Like if you need the extra 100 to get up to a guy, like take Wood against Texas. I don't feel bad about that at all.
All right, friend of the show, T, wants to know, 2-part question, down to my last dollar on FanDuel. I think he was down to his last on DK last week, so we're running dry on the bank.
That means he must have hit, right? Unless he redeposited.
Unless he was onto the other, going back to the other site that has a balance. Single entry tournaments SP, who are you going for?
Single entry, Bieber.
Bieber?
It's his last dollar. Give him Bieber.
Would you do that, or would you save the dollar and rent the episode of Family Matters where Urkel becomes Stefan Urkel?
That's more than one episode.
Well, what I would do is I would go ahead and invest your dollar today in FanDuel, and I'm sure you have another dollar, and just do both.
There you go. Why not both?
Devin, you know the episode where
Para qué?
Urkel?
I don't.
You're old enough to know.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
but I just was reading it. Yeah.
you played it off like you knew. I bought it. I'm like, wow.
I have context clues, Dean. I'm it's like a fox, Dean. This was our strategy question, so we'll end with this one. Jay wants to know, if I'm putting 1 entry in the large 555 tourney, what's the best approach on this slate this big? 5-man to get the best possible shot to cash. They put in parentheses, I know. But what's your general thoughts if you were putting in 1 lineup in the large 555 tourney? We'll start with Will.
On DK?
Yeah.
What's my strategy? I think there's enough value bats today that you go with your top 3 bats, right? Put those guys in. Next, go with your top pitcher, and then fill it in from there and see where you end up. Like if I've got 1 bullet, I'm going with the guys that I absolutely think are going to smash, whether they're all on the same team or not. That's the approach I'm going to take. You know what I mean? That would be so for me.
But you would start with a 3-man,
right? Randy Rosarina, Andrew McCutchen, and Brandon Belt. I'd probably go with something like that. and clearly I'm going to stack San Francisco. So that, okay, let me give you what I would do. I would be stacking San Francisco 4 deep. I wouldn't go 5. I go 4 deep, San Francisco. I take who I felt like was the top pitcher on the slate, which for me it's Bieber. I build around that, and then I come back and say, okay, do I feel comfortable with the money I have left for my last pitcher? If I don't, then I got to tweak it. I get up to the pitcher that I say, this is what the pitcher I want to get, and then I tweak the bats. Sorry, go ahead, Dean.
I love it. Dean?
So we got to step aside. We're up against the clock. I was going to say, they sent me a note. I was going to get like $75 off. I entered, and I just forgot to enter, and I got a random email bonus. Like, there's no perk or whatever. You get that on occasion.
Dean knows a guy.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, but I wish I did. But I would. Yeah, I was going to say I probably almost definitely would not play a 5-man. And it's not top heavy either. I think it's the 20% up top, which is personally I like the single entry 121 where it's usually like 10% up top. I hate when they have 150 and 50 up top. That's right. I just can't play that. Like I'm in the $18 today. I think like 10 of those. But I would not run a 5-man because I don't love one particular team today. I would probably go like 3-3-2 or something like that with the 2 stud pitchers. Stay tuned for Crunch Time. It is Derek Carty, it is STL Cards. And Roth is going to give you guys the most up-to-date updates. Later on tonight, it's Castle. It's Card Stock Afterlock, myself and Will. And it's a very intimate show, barely just the 2 of us talking Top Shots. That'll be good times for sure. Stay tuned for that. That said, good luck tonight in baseball. That was Will. That was Devin. I was Dean. This was baseball. We're out of here. Holler!